Alright guys, at the suggestion of a viewer, AntPile3567, I wanted to do a quick test on archery, a little follow-up test, as he mentioned the fact that shields could be blocking a lot of shots and giving enhanced protection values. So he wanted to see a battle against tough troops that didn't have shields, so I picked the Ulm Black Plate Infantry, which is their toughest troop, but the pikemen, so they had no shields. And then we're going to go test if, with cavalry, if the archers can knock the cavalry out underneath the knights, even when the mounts are well protected. So I tried to find some high protection mounts, and we'll see what happens there too. So let's check out the first battle. This is 600 cavalry versus 200 Black Plate Infantry. All right, so here we are with the battle. We have our 600 crossbows. We have our very tough guys, but without shields. So let's test it out without shields. Let's see if they actually do a lot of damage before these guys reach them. Oh, that's hilarious. Best target selection of all time. I wonder if that'll affect the test. Let's see. That poor commander. Let's pause before they get into melee and see how many they've killed out of the 200. Oh boy, they've injured almost every one of them. Look at that. Look at those health bars. Okay, let's count. All right, so we finished counting. They killed 54 pikemen before they even reached the crossbowmen. And as you can see from the HP pools, let's see how many are full health. Only about 35 of them are full health. The rest of them have been demolished and are down here with very low health, injuries, or dead. Okay, and do they continue wiping them out? All right. Oh, not bad at all. Yep, that's definitely a big difference. And these boys have good protection, good head protection, good body protection, just no shields. That certainly seemed to make a difference. Now let's check out what we can do with knights. All right, now we've got the heavy cavalry versus the crossbowmen in reverse. We've got the Ulm crossbowmen shooting at the Marignan cavalry. Let's see exactly how this goes. Let's see if they're able to take the horses out before they reach. To be fair, I probably should not have had a bunch of 200 cavalry like we had 200 troops, because obviously it would take you 3 times as long to amass this much cavalry. But I still kind of want to see what they do to them. Let's see what happens. See how many horses get knocked out. Oh, Ant-Man has a point. Some of these horses were getting, obviously the riders were getting knocked off. I think what happened was they failed morale checks. Yeah, so if the horses fail morale checks but the rider succeeds, the rider falls off the horse. And I think that means they take a little bit of damage when they fall off. Oh, we've got some dead guys too. Wow, they did. They just hit the horses and killed them right off the bat. All right, well, let's see how this ends, because I don't think this ends well for crossbowmen with a whole bunch of knights bearing down on them. Especially since these guys shoot more slowly. Wow, they really tore up their formations, though. Oh, they're definitely wiping themselves out here. Yeah, it still got to melee. The majority, oh wow, they routed. The majority of the knights still got to melee, even though they knocked out some horses. Maybe we'll try a third test just to see what happens when you get a realistic number of cavalry running in. We'll drop it down to maybe 75 cavalry, see what happens, see if they actually get the majority of them to the archers. All right, we've cut it down from 200 heavy cavalry down to 100 heavy cavalry, which is still a gross overestimation as to how many you could afford. If you do the math on the Ulm Black Plate Infantry versus knights, it's 50 gold per knight and it's only 10 gold per black plate, so you could have 5 times the amount. But since we already have 3 times the amount of crossbows, let's see what happens. After this, we'll do a test where we do mathematically equivalent armies, knights versus archers, and see what happens. That cannot be fun to ride into. pretty vicious. They lost 87. They lost 39. All right. Now let's set up a mathematical comparison in terms of money. These crossbows cost 10 gold each. These knights cost 50 gold each. Let's actually set up a 5-to-1 comparison and see what happens. All right, here's the mathematical equivalent of crossbows to heavy cav. We'll see what happens if you spend the same amount of gold on crossbows versus the same amount of gold on heavy cavalry. Let's check it out. This is 600 to 120. Ouch. There you have it, boys. You definitely would rather spend your money on crossbows than royal guards. I think it just goes to show what I had said in the original video, where crossbows and archery has a higher place in Dominion 6 than it did in Dominion 5. It's much harder to make these guys untouchable by archers, and this is assuming the archers are defending themselves. If you put a single line of large shield-bearing troops in front of these crossbows, and maybe your nation's capable of casting Mist Form or Air Shield on your troops, then you really are going to just annihilate people with these archers and knock them out. Seems like it's very capable. Now, the next thing I wanted to test was we'll test the exact same test here with 120 Royal Guards versus 600 crossbows, but I'll put the Royal Guards in box formation. We'll see if the formation actually makes that big of a difference. All right, now we've set up our cavalry in box formation with 120 cavalry versus crossbows. So let's see if the box formation makes it way worse, or if it's, people always say, you know, line formations are harder to shoot with crossbows. Well, let's test it out. I mean, theoretically it'll work. Might as well give it a shot while we're here. Oh, that's a huge difference. That is a huge difference. That is a huge difference. At least in just how much they broke up the formations. Let's see if it went worse. It went worse for them. Way worse. So line, double line formations definitely make a difference. Let's check it out with sparse line next and see what happens. All right, this looks like it'll be the final test unless something shows up in this I didn't expect. So let's see what the knights in sparse line formation will do. Will they have a better chance if they're spread out like this ridiculous looking line of cavalry? Maybe we'll have an answer for the massed archers. Ooh. That is interesting. That is very interesting. That didn't look like the archers took out the knights before they reached them. That looked like they just beat him in melee. Wow. Lost more crossbows than royal guards, which obviously isn't a gold equivalency, but that makes a huge difference. So I think it's pretty safe here to pull a conclusion from these tests that crossbows are extremely good even against knights, and even better against guys with no shields. Knights have shields, but even better against guys with no shields. But once you get the gold equivalent of crossbows to knights, it seems like they demolish them unless the knights are in sparse or spread out formations like skirmish. So that's kind of nice. It gives Dominion 6 a little more counterplay as opposed to, you know, throw Army of Lead on your knights and they're untouchable by archers. This seems like it's giving us a pretty good back and forth, a little play in Dominion 6 where archery matters, but you have to play it correctly and you have to really pigeonhole your opponent into boxed formations for buffs or something similar. So try that in your games, let me know. And Antpile3567, hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any further questions, drop them in a comment below. See you guys later.